Hey guys, so as our year of anniversary episodes continues, we now set our sights on the Metal Gear series. This year marks the 30th anniversary of the series, and it's time we talked about it. Since there are so many titles, remakes, spin-offs, and whatnot from the series, I'll be focusing on the main series entries that were directed by Hideo Kojima, and will be telling brief personal stories I have associated with them. We'll be going in production order of the games as to follow this 30-year journey, so without further delays, let's get started. Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake were the first two games to start it all. I was actually born when the original Metal Gear came out, but didn't end up playing it or Metal Gear 2 until 2005 with the release of Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence. The two games were given new English translations and were re-released with Subsistence in the form of a bonus feature. I was pretty excited to play them, but I ended up finding them a bit cumbersome. Metal Gear is a historic proof of concept of how imagination can overcome technological shortcomings. I appreciate all that, but since I played the 3D games first, I ended up having high expectations of it and found it to be meh. Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake was a big improvement over the first game. I find it the most playable of the two, and think the story is interesting, and is almost a prototype to what Kojima would eventually do with Metal Gear Solid. I always end up replaying the entire Metal Gear series every year as a tradition, but oftentimes I play abbreviated versions of these games as opposed to full playthroughs. Production-wise, the next game in the series is Metal Gear Solid, and since I dedicated an entire episode of the show once to it, I'll be skipping it here. Check out episode 10 in the playlist down below to hear me gush about MGS1, which is still my favorite game of all time. Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty had a huge amount of hype surrounding it. It was the killer app for the PS2 back in its day, and was one of the games that convinced me I needed to buy a PlayStation 2. My dad actually drove me to another state that was 40 minutes away in order to pick up the game at launch, namely because the small town we lived in at the time never got games on release days. On the way back home, we stopped by a Crystal Burger to get some food, and the guy at the drive-thru saw me holding the game and freaked out. He said something like, "Oh my god, he has Metal Gear Solid 2! I can't wait to play it after work!" It was pretty fucking cool. I really enjoyed the game through and through, but like with most people, found the Raiden character swap to be so weird. I honestly just wanted Snake's story to be expanded and progressed while also being able to play as him. Over time, however, I found the character swap choice and the game as a whole to have aged like a fine wine. That game plays so well today, and it honestly might be my second favorite Metal Gear game, right after MGS1. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater was the next entry. I actually bought a PSM magazine that had a demo of it bundled with the magazine, just to get a taste of the next MGS game. It was totally worth it, and continued the tradition of me having been able to try out MGS 1, 2, and now 3 in demo form before the actual full games would come out. MGS 3 came out during my senior year of high school, and honestly, I had pretty much given up on gaming at that point in my life, but I still kept up with the MGS series. Snake Eater ended up being a great game and an even better character study on Big Boss. Its story really resonates the feelings and experiences that Big Boss undertook during the game's events that would go on to change him for the rest of his life. And that ending? It was so touching and powerful. By the time Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots came out, I was in college and working at a local GameStop. I was able to take the game home early a few days before release and was blown away. I ended up finishing the game by the time of its actual release day, which ironically was my last day working at my local GameStop. I ended up doing the midnight launch for the game, and I felt like that was such a great way to end my time as a GameStop employee. 'Twas a good time. My sister was with me on the night that I actually ended up finishing the game, and it was like 2 AM in the morning when I beat it. I actually fell asleep during the ending. I missed the Big Boss scenes. My sister told me the next day what I had missed, and I thought that she was just messing around with me. Good old brother-sister fun poking. How could Big Boss be in the game? I ended up beating it again right after my sister told me what I missed and was super shocked. When Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker first came out, I actually didn't like it. It just didn't connect with me. Over time, I grew to like it for both its gameplay and storyline, and accepted it as the, then, newest entry in the MGS series. It really did feel like the game that truly transitioned Big Boss from flawed hero to villain more so than ever. Near the end of the game, Snake is pleading with the AI boss and questions why she did what she did during the events of MGS3, despite the AI, of course, not actually being the real boss. That was one of the rare moments that I got emotional while playing a video game. It was a very real and heartful performance that David Hayter gave that really cemented that moment in. To see such a strong character break down and plead to a thing that resembles a person he once loved as a mother figure was a huge moment in the series that I feel is severely underrated. It's one of my favorite moments in the entire game series. Last but not least, we have the release of Metal Gear Solid 5, which was one of my most hyped games of all time. First came the release of Ground Zeroes, which was billed as a prologue to the Phantom Pain, and was a great proof of concept on the new ideas and gameplay style MGS5 was going to bring. I was both annoyed and happy it was being released early from the core game. Happy because I was able to have something to nibble on as I waited for the Phantom Pain to be released, but annoyed that it was such a short experience that left me wanting more. The Phantom Pain, on the other hand, was pure greatness. It was a phenomenal game. I was actually really surprised by the number of MGS fans that hated it. I enjoyed the entire experience and thought it was a fantastic final entry in the series from Hideo Kojima. Big Boss's story, and the story that was started way back with the original Metal Gear release, was finally completed. Also, and this is a big spoiler, I really love the great final twist from Kojima, that the character we played as throughout the entire game, called Venom Snake, wasn't actually Big Boss and was an entirely different person. Kojima tricked us again! It was an MGS2 all over again. I was totally into this twist and thought it was executed really well. It was one last bit of Metal Gear magic before Kojima went on to create other games. It was fitting, beautiful, and felt so right to me. And with that, we have covered all the Hideo Kojima directed Metal Gear games. In fact, those are the only ones Kojima will have ever directed. With him gone from Konami, the series is now in the hands of Konami, for better or for worse. We know already that Metal Gear will continue to have future game releases, and to some that might be disheartening since Kojima won't be behind the wheel development for them. Consider this though, Kojima is finally able to move on and make other games, and we might see something new and interesting come out for the Metal Gear series at some point in the future. And even if the future games don't end up satisfying us fans, we will always have the Kojima directed ones. Those can never be taken away from us. So here's to 30 years of Metal Gear. Let's see what the next 30 hold. And always remember guys, Retrospectives-Be-Damned, I'm telling my story.